Hi, I'm Max Evans, and in this video, I'd like to talk to you about how to build coworker trust inside an organization. In previous videos, we've talked about the connection between building coworker trust or having coworker trust and its influence on knowledge-sharing behavior. A lot of previous research, including my own, has found a positive motivating effect of trust on knowledge sharing, and that knowledge sharing appears to be predominantly dependent on the development of coworker trust. My own research has added things like shared vision, but ultimately it was found to be mediated by trust, making trust the most important factor. Though other factors were found to be influential, building and nurturing trust appears to be the best approach for motivating effective knowledge-sharing behavior in organizations. However, different facets of trust require different interventions, so it's important to understand how to build different elements of trust. So let's start with how you might behave so that people trust you. The first piece of advice I can give is to be accurate. Provide correct information when you're asked. The more correct your information turns out to be, the higher the ability-based trust and benevolence-based trust the person will perceive of you. 2, try to go out of your way to give advice. It's important to give advice in order for people to trust you. 3, be available, be accessible, and be easy to contact. 4, be consistent, predictable, and reliable. 5, show discretion. What do I mean by that? Well, keep secrets. When people share secrets with you, make sure you keep those secrets a secret. 6, provide emotional support. 7, candidly disclose your expertise and, more importantly, the limitations of your expertise. What I really mean by that is admit what you don't know, so people are going to be more confident in what you say you do know. 8, treat people fairly and equitably. Do favors and give gifts. Openly share your thoughts and feelings. Keep your promises. Protect others from harm by third parties. Be open-minded, receptive, and a good listener. Share and delegate control. Now that might range from seeking input to delegating completely. Very important to tell the truth. Use warm and engaging nonverbal behavior. And if all else fails, I'm not sure how ethical it is, but one surefire way of making yourself seem more trustworthy is to contrast yourself with an untrustworthy person. So you might refer to an untrustworthy person who's in the same group as you, thereby making you look more trustworthy by comparison. The next question is, what can facilitators do to try to create and nurture trust? First, facilitators must themselves demonstrate trustworthy behaviors so that we have this trickle-down effect that starts from upper management and moves down. You want to be clear about what information should be confidential and penalize those that reveal it. So hold people accountable for their discretionary acts. 2, you want to stress consistency between someone's words and someone's actions. You want to make sure people are clear about what they commit to do, that they set realistic expectations so that they can actually deliver and not overcommit themselves. 3, you want to encourage and ensure frequent and rich communication. You want to try to develop close relationships and an understanding of each coworker through meaningful and memorable interactions. Now, what do I mean by meaningful? I mean have people prepare and read beforehand, then use group time for joint problem solving. And what do I mean by memorable? Well, you want to increase the amount of information available for people so that they can more easily assess the other person's abilities, intentions, and behaviors. One way to do this might be to encourage the use of cross-functional or dispersed teams. Job rotation also develops mutual cognitive understanding, so you might want to create both physical and virtual spaces where people can interact. 4, you want to encourage collaborative communication, which permits for exploration, brainstorming, and inquiry. You want to discourage critical and judgmental comments early in an idea stage. Don't expect or demand complete solutions right away. Give people a chance to move through the idea stage. Be willing to work jointly to improve partially formed ideas. Engage people in collaborative processes that illustrate interdependence and provide opportunity to demonstrate individual individual competencies that, again, show someone's ability, benevolence, and integrity. You want to create collaborative spaces and bring people together in the project and then recharge and maintain those connections. You might do that through informal events and get-togethers. Those are great at developing benevolence-based trust. We can have more formal reviews and team meetings on projects which develop more ability-based trust. 5, you want to ensure that decisions are fair and transparent. You want to make sure people are clear about how and why decisions are made and know that this criteria is applied equally to everyone. For example, when you make promotion or reward criteria available, you want to make sure that it's clear-cut so that there are no hidden agendas or fear of any hidden agendas. 6, you want to create a common understanding of how the business works and establish and ensure a shared perspective. We've previously talked about the importance of a shared perspective, but developing a common understanding of the nature and goals of the work is actually very, very important. You want to create common ways of thinking, common terminology, and clarify any unique terminology that you may think a coworker might not understand. In addition, you want to look out for misunderstandings. Misunderstandings can often occur due to differences in jargon and thought processes. Many teams decide to get to work right away. However, they may interpret the group mandate differently, which frequently occurs when people come from different functional, educational, and cultural backgrounds. If they interpret the group mandate differently, then they really don't have a shared perspective. 7, you want to signal that trust is important and hold people accountable for that trust. Recognize and evaluate trust through informal, meaning cultural, and formal evaluation processes. Reward any good examples that you might find and discipline any violations of trust that you discover. Publicize and train important values. What do I mean by informal? Informal, through a cultural perspective, might be to clarify a set of values that the organization stands for. Formal, on the other hand, might include explicit measures of trustworthiness in performance evaluation. You might work out an evaluation process for assessing employee behavior in relation to the selected values. You can use the behaviors we looked at with respect to ability, benevolence, integrity, and you could also tie in compensation. In the beginning, you're trying to recruit people using interviews and psychological tests which not only evaluate their ability to do the job, but also their ability to fit into the collaborative environment of the firm. The formal, these evaluation and hiring processes feed into the informal, that cultural perspective, i.e. personality screening for honesty and ethics develops a culture of honesty and ethics. Number 8, you want to create personal human connections through non-work topics people have in common. Encourage people to share personal information and find non-work commonalities. For example, commonalities in education and family status and values. A great way to do this is to develop an organization-wide persona book. A persona book might have color pictures, professional information that covers things like areas of expertise, company careers, previous employments, previous education, and most importantly, personal information like, for example, a person you'd like to have lunch with, or an ideal vacation you may want to take, or different hobbies that you have, or hidden talents, or your first job, for example. Number 9, you want to encourage people to give away something of value. Provide access to their own limited resources. So have people share their expertise and their personal networks. This creates a great mentoring program. When this happens, the source views the seeker as trustworthy and repays them intangibly with reciprocal trust, loyalty, and enthusiasm, and tangibly with better work products. The knowledge source risks the tacit knowledge being misused and then blamed on them, which can jeopardize the source's reputation and social capital. Number 10, you want to encourage, promote, and reward affiliative behaviors. For example, you may include when people take a personal interest in coworkers or go out of their way to share information or help others with their work-related tasks. 11, have people disclose their expertise and, more importantly, the limitations of their expertise. Have people explicitly highlight the boundaries of their knowledge, encourage people to admit when they don't know something, and more importantly, to defer to people that may know more. There's always a pressure to know all the answers in organizations. Specifying what you don't know more or less makes you vulnerable. However, it's hard to accurately assess who knows what, especially when the domain is unfamiliar or the interactions have been limited. Trying to minimize the cost of wasted time and effort finding out that a person is not knowledgeable in an area they claim is actually quite costly for the organization. Ironically, when people are honest about what they know, they are more trusted on the topics that they do know. Finally, support communities of practice and use technologies like social network analysis to identify any problems in the network. One can identify problem points in a network and target trust interventions in those network problem points. It's very important to note that each environment will dictate which trust builders are appropriate to use. So it's not the case that we have to apply all 12 of these facilitator rules in order for us to have a trusting environment. In fact, just a few of these trust builders might be enough to create coworker trust. So what do we do when it's too late and trust is already broken and now we have to repair it? I'm really going to break this down by the type of trust and talk about the different ways that we can repair certain kinds of trust violation. So I'll start with competence-based trust or ability-based trust violations, which Daniel Levin calls a slip-up. With a competence-based slip-up, your best bet is to apologize and to assume all of the blame yourself. With integrity-based violations, which Daniel Levin calls cutting corners, your best bet is to deny, especially if you can produce evidence of your innocence. If you are in fact guilty, then go back to the first point and apologize, but try to blame the situation rather than yourself. This is effective, but not perhaps the most ethical approach. For example, you might say, I was partially guilty, but I wouldn't have done it if they hadn't pressured me. Finally, benevolence-based violations, which Daniel Levin calls betrayal, don't really have a firm way of dealing with them. So there really is no known conclusive research on how to repair benevolence-based trust. So that's my quick video on building and repairing trust. If you have any further questions or would like any of the references, please feel free to email me. Thank you very much.